this video, I'll share with you 5 reasons why differentiating your Amazon PL is necessary for your private label success on Amazon. Why selling Me Too products will doom your business, and just what in the world is product differentiation to begin with. At the end of this video, I'll share with you something special to help you level up your business, so stick around and let's do this. My name is Carlos Alvarez, and I'm a full-time Amazon Ecom seller of 15 years, co-host of the Wizards of Ecom podcast, and founder of the largest Amazon seller meetup group in the world. Stand out, differentiate. These terms are thrown around amongst Amazon sellers a lot, but when pressed, most are clueless as to what it actually means or why it's being done to begin with. Differentiating a product on Amazon, for me, means making a change to the product that's perceived as an improvement in the buyer's eyes. And if you really want the differentiation to have an immediate impact, it's making sure that the differentiation of the product is obvious in the main image of the listing. Let's say you're selling a manual coffee grinder. I used to sell these. And let's say it's a ceramic burr manual coffee grinder, and you change the physical appearance of the grinder to make it appear portable or leverage gravity or make it appear to come apart easier to be cleaned. This obvious change will catch everyone's eye during search and increase the clicks and conversions. If the differentiation, on the other hand, was to one of the internal mechanism, like let's say you added a ceramic burr, then this change is not so obvious in the main image, and therefore it's not going to have an immediate effect, if you will, on sales, as would the example with the gravity grinder. That product is saturated, or that's a Me Too product. These are other terms that are tossed around a lot amongst us Amazon sellers. And in nearly every one of these instances, the root cause is a product was launched on Amazon that didn't have any changes or differentiations made to it. So it could not stand out, or it couldn't be marketed effectively. Just in case you're not convinced, I've put together 5 reasons why it's important to differentiate your Amazon private label product. The number one reason to differentiate your Amazon private label product is increased profitability. Revenues are vanity and profits are sanity. I'm not sure who first said this, but it could not be more accurate. There's a ton of ways to differentiate your product, and I'm going to share many of them in this YouTube series. One of the most common ways, though, is to get a mold. A mold's where you pay a few $100 or a few $1,000s, depending on the material of the product, to have the product change to your desired shape or appearance. Sticking with the gravity grinder example, let's say you looked into this, you liked it, you checked out the negative reviews on Amazon, and discovered the grinders on the market are too large for most people to hold in one hand. Your solution is to differentiate the product by making the neck of the grinder slimmer so any hand size could grip it. To achieve this, you would just pay to have a mold created with this new shape in mind. And the biggest point of resistance that most Amazon sellers have to getting a mold is on this first product is, I don't want to waste too much money on the first one. But here's the secret on this. Paying for this mold will actually make you more profitable than if you didn't, and instead sold the product as is or as a Me Too product. The reason for this is, absent paying for the mold and differentiating your product, you're going to look like everybody else's product. And the only way you're going to be able to sell this product is either by being the cheapest seller, which means you have less profits, having the most reviews, giveaways and whatnot cost money, or spending the most on pay-per-click advertising. And if you are already the cheapest product on the market and you're paying for PPC advertising, you really do not have the margins for this, as your margins are already so small. So instead, if you paid for the mold, that one-time cost, you can now price your product way above the competition, and you're in a league of your own, since you're the only gravity grinder with the ergonomic grip. A higher price point means you have more profit margin than the other Me Too products. You can invest in further product development and marketing efforts to continue, expanding your product's life cycle. I'm going to speak a bit about life cycle a little later in this video. You also have the most reviews. Since you have no other products that are like yours, any amount of reviews you have is the most for that product. This next one's important. You can also afford to dominate on PPC with your new increased profit margin for being priced higher. I think you get the point on how molds can translate into more profits for you, but they're also much less riskier. The second reason why it's super important to differentiate your product is defensibility. If you're not making sure your product is as defensible as possible, your days of profitability on Amazon are severely numbered. I grade defensibility on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the least defensible and 10 being the most defensible. So level 1 to me is a Me Too product, like we just described. You saw it on Amazon or surfaced it on Helium 10, then found the exact product on Alibaba, and just like thousands of other people will, they're going to find those same factories and they're going to take their money. So the product market becomes flooded with identical Me Too products. Number 2 for me is color and quantity. This is a differentiator for sure, but it's easy to duplicate. So if you have someone on the market selling thermoses and they're selling gray thermoses and you have the great idea to add a red colored thermos, it would be very easy for this seller selling the gray thermoses to just tell their factory, hey, drop a color dye in the next series and just change it to red. They're going to add it as a variation on their listing and they're just going to be light years ahead of you. So color and quantity per pack definitely is a differentiator, but it's not the most defensive long-term. Number 3 for me is multi-factory. This is where your product requires more than one factory to create and only one of them actually assembles or knows what the final product is. This is going to give you a lot of difference just from the project management standpoint alone, as working with multiple factories on a single product orders is quite difficult. Number 4 is molds. We just touched on this, but this is for me the first level of powerful product defensibility. And it's where you actually structurally change the product in a way that's obvious in the main image and lets you stand out from your competitors' listings. Number 5 for me is molds and multi-factory. Everything I just described about molds plus working with a factory. So you pull the mold maybe from one factory and then you're working with multiple factories with only one of them knowing the final outcome of your product. Number 6 would be molds plus multi-factory and black boxing. This rarely happens, but this would be where you get a mold from one factory, then you have more than one factory working on the actual product, and then all of that is sent to yet another facility or factory that acts as like a black boxing facility. They kit or assemble all of your products, so no factory that's manufacturing any of the components actually knows who's manufacturing the products. Number 7 for me is app technologies, and this is where you incorporate an app with your product. And it doesn't have to be so that the product can function only with the app, but this could be just showing the silhouette of an app that you have that works with your product or lends assistant with your product as part of your product. So it doesn't just have to be a wearable technology product. And I plan on doing a really in-depth video on how to use apps affordably with your private label products to stand out in a competitive space. Number 8 for me is copyrights. This one is not used anywhere near as much as I think it should be, but if you have a product that can have a design or any sort of artwork put on the front of it, copyrights can be super powerful in this regard. So maybe the symbol that you created is why people are buying the product. You see this a lot with like lawn care products, and recently at the annual event that I host called Online Seller Cruise, we had a speaker named Afolabi, a close friend of mine, who showed how he built out an entire like lawn care line of products that really just prohibited any sort of, Chinese factory hijacking or counterfeiting or anything, because he could just easily enforce like, hey, I have a copyright for this. Number 9, licensing. Licensing, I recently went to the licensing show in Vegas. There's several per year, but Vegas has one of the best one. Went there, it was part of a group being run by Paul Miller, and licensing is very powerful. It's not easy to get into, much harder than everything that I've mentioned on this defensibility scale so far, but it allows you to, like in the case of Paul Miller, he had these headphones and they were kid headphones and they were doing really good. He got nervous that, Chinese competitors were coming in and dropping the price. So he went out and got licensing for this. So now he has like Nickelodeon and all these other globally known IP characters that he could start putting on his product. So you have to go through the licensing process to actually get it. It's a powerful way to differentiate, definitely not for every product. And from what I learned at the show, your product or brand or product line should be selling in excess of $1 million per year for them to really take you seriously. Finally, number 10 is patents. This could be a utility patent or a design patent. While this is definitely one of the most expensive and one of the most difficult ones to get, I'd be remiss if I did not add it to this scale of defensibility. Patents would be number 10. Anytime you can get a patent to protect your product, it preserves you and protects you for many, many years. I believe it's 15 to 25 years. And again, if you can get it, I highly recommend it. In short, listening to this defensibility scale, what I really want to emphasize is I highly recommend making sure your private label product comes in at around a 4 or higher on this scale, so you're as defensible as possible with your keywords, your listing, and most importantly, against your competitors. The third reason why I think it's important to differentiate your private label product on Amazon is the benefit that comes with increasing the product's life cycle on Amazon. the product becomes differentiated, it becomes more attractive to customers, and therefore it can increase its demand in sales. This turns around into a really nice flywheel of a longer product life cycle and can continue to make the product even more popular on the market for much longer than it would be otherwise if it was just a Me Too product. I definitely acknowledge here that there's other factors such as like changing consumer preferences and technological advancements that also play a huge role in product lifecycle. And these are out of your control, but differentiating is something that you can affordably do and is totally in your control. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions or leave comments below if you want me to further expand on any of the points that I've brought up so far. The fourth most important reason, in my opinion, to differentiate your Amazon private label product is pattern interrupt. And one of the most popular examples of pattern interrupt in an Amazon private label product is the Thrasio case study of Angry Orange. Angry Orange was a successful private label brand which sold a citrus concentrate that neutralized pet odors. And in 2018, Thrasio purchased Angry Orange and decided to differentiate the product by way of a rebrand using color and packaging. So while neither one of these color or packaging is very defensible, since other brands could easily change their branding and color, obviously, as you're about to learn in this case, it was more than enough. Angry Orange went from 2 million, approximately, if I'm remembering correctly, about 2 million in sales at the time they were acquired to over $23 million in under 2 years directly from that differentiation. You're probably asking how it worked. You're probably extremely dumbfounded or skeptical. I was when I first heard it. I encourage you, I'll drop the link here below so that you could read this case study for yourself. But prior to the differentiation, and sort of the genius behind this is Angry Orange and all of its competitors had this same flat pastel light coloring. So search results for this product returned this pattern of bland, boring products, which presumably did all did the same thing. With the color differentiated to the bright angry orange that it is now, the pattern was completely interrupted. So now if you're searching for this product, you're unable to not see the bright angry orange color listing. In a few clicks with more eyeballs on the listing, they definitely won the sale. I believe that's like a 500x, and it is one of the best case studies I've seen on why differentiation can extremely increase your profit. The fifth reason why I think it's super important to differentiate your Amazon private label product is differentiation is the only way to profitably combat the increased competition on Amazon nowadays. One of my favorite books when it comes to how I approach private label is Blue Ocean Strategy. I'll link to it below. It's available in both paperback and Audible. At this point, though, you're wondering what a Blue Ocean may have to do, if you've not read this book, what a Blue Ocean has to do with Amazon private label products anyway, and why is it in a video on differentiation? And I'm going to break that down for you now. So before we get into Blue Oceans, what is a red ocean? So red oceans are all the products and categories in existence on Amazon now, and these are the Me Too products, if you will. Red oceans, all the boundaries of your product are defined. All the products are the same. Everyone's images are the same. The competitive rules here boil down to just, reviews, lowest price, and it's all vanilla. It's all the same. And your goal here is to outperform your competitors and grab a greater share of the existing sales. And then as more people enter the market and it gets more crowded with more of these Me Too products, your profits and your growth will be reduced. Your products are going to become commodities, your profit margins are going to evaporate, and this leads to a cutthroat or bloody competition, hence the term red oceans. So blue oceans, on the other hand, where you want to be, denote all the products and categories not in existence today. This is the unknown market. This is where you have a space to get into when you differentiate your product, and with no competition, which I think is super important. In Blue Ocean's, competition is irrelevant because you have a unique product with greater profit margins and therefore have zero competition. Differentiating your product will create uncontested market space, create and capture new demand, and make the competition irrelevant. You want to be in a blue ocean. If you want access to thousands of hours of more in-depth trainings on this topic and many other topics to help you succeed wherever you are at in your Amazon selling journey, I'm extending a free month to our Wizards of Ecom Academy. I'll drop the link below. Now that you also know about product differentiation, check out the next video on different ways you can differentiate your product and how I rate them based on ease of implementation, cost, and defensibility. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.